Thank you for staying with us. I'm sure that we have all been involved one way or another in the lingering fuel crisis. I'm sure some of you have had to go queue for petrol this morning, even though it's not as bad in Lagos as it was earlier in the week. But some people have said that removal of subsidy will do the magic. But federal government thinks otherwise, especially now. It says now is not the time to remove fuel subsidy. Well, maybe the national president of the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, NARTO, will be able to answer some of your many questions, as well as some of ours. Alhaji Yusuf Lawal Uthman, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Can you just give us a quick list? What are the causes of this current fuel crisis?
Well, the current fuel crisis is not unconnected with the world energy crisis. And in Nigerian perspective also because we do not have active refineries. So we have to import petroleum products. And the cost of importing petroleum product also, we have to distribute this petroleum product across the country. Usually in the course of distribution, we have to consume a lot of diesel. That's what we call AGO. And that AGO as of today is about 800 naira or more. So it's the scarcity of the diesel and the high cost of diesel that, from my perspective, led to the current oil crisis. However, we have gotten some succor because federal government, as you could see, has approved increase in the freight rate, and we've received necessary approval down to all the agencies, and we have communicated to our members to ensure that they deploy the trucks immediately with a view to reduce the sufferance.
You have referred to diesel. Do you care to tell us
Yes.
what is responsible for the hike in diesel price? It has about tripled in price, tripled or quadrupled?
Yes, diesel is a byproduct of crude oil. If you could see in the last few months, of course, crude oil has gone up. So, of course, the byproduct will naturally go up. And also because the Ukraine-Russia war is on, the supply is being hampered. There is a vacuum in supplies all over. So it is difficult to even import, even in Nigeria. But despite that, the product is available, but a very high cost. That's one Nigerian perspective. Two, the dwindling foreign exchange, Nigerian position. So that also is a factor in the high cost of diesel.
So you say that government has approved some part of your costs, your logistics. Do you care to tell us more about that?
Yes, hitherto the bridging fund was 10 naira 46 kobo. Now an additional 10 naira into the bridging fund. I believe it's adequate to take care of all the hiccups in the system. And it's really very well appreciated because now all the costs as regards diesel should not be a factor anymore in the problems of distribution. I believe our members are happy now, and we appreciate this kind gesture. You see, we need to appreciate what is good. Nigeria is not operating in isolation. All over there is energy crisis. Some few weeks, or is it last week, I saw some truckers, about 1,000 truckers in the United States, threatening to park their trucks because of the high cost of diesel. Now in Nigeria, cost of PMS is officially 165 naira per liter. Our neighbors supposed to about 500 naira per liter. So government, against all odds, is selling at 165 naira. So naturally, you will have some hiccups here and there. Try and maintain that 165 naira per liter. but they are trying their best. And I believe maybe in the next few days or week, with the increase in the freight rate, there should be some normalcy in the system. Maybe some of the queues will go up shortly.
Is this information, Alaji Othman, is this information something that just suddenly hit the authorities, or is something that they knew? I ask because, I mean, this, what you just said about the, freight costs and all, someone somewhere must have known that it will have a reverberating effect on the system, on the supply chain.
Well, as at February, we came out and complained that the high cost of diesel then was about 450 naira, was chopping the chunk of the payment we received. The Nigerian Ministry and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency went ahead after our discussions. They got necessary approval from the president, and 25% was increased into the freight rate. That time, diesel was 450 naira. Today, diesel is 800 naira, but they did not rest at that time. They went ahead looking at the parameters in the system on their own. They got the necessary approval, and they got the 10 naira into the fund. So I believe they are proactive, and they have done well in that respect. However, nobody envisaged that this Ukraine-Russia war will last much longer than it is, and nobody's wanting it to stop. That's one. Two, nobody also knows that the supply of the petroleum product into the country will be much difficult than it used to be. Let me also inform you, it's not only Nigeria that consumes petroleum product, or purchases from all these companies that sell this petroleum product. There are so many other countries who do not have the refining capacity. So there is competition even in the purchase. It will interest you to know that you can lock a deal with some of the suppliers and even sign a deal. Okay, in case of default, we'll charge you $1 million. But if at the end of the day somebody has a deal that will earn him 2 million, so you could afford to lose 1 million and give you another 1 more million. It's really very, very difficult even to get the supply of the petroleum product into this country. So it's a serious issue, but I believe we get a necessary supply. We have adequate supply from the information available, because I'm not a spokesperson of NNPC, but I'm aware that there is adequate supply that could last more than 30 days. The issue we have is distribution, and that end has also been catered for. So I believe in the next few days, we should be able to have some reasonable sanity across the country.
Alaji, what is the implication of this government approval of the, to increase the bridging funds? What is the implication of that on the consumer?
Well, as far as we are concerned, there is no implication to the consumer, because fuel still sells at 165 naira per liter, irrespective of the increase into the bridging fund.
But we heard during the week that some areas have not bought fuel for 165 naira in months and years in some places. They have never paid 165 naira for fuel. What is happening to those areas, for instance, far removed from the capital cities?
Well, those areas are doing it on their own, because officially the PMS is supposed to sell at 165 naira per liter. So it is the regulatory agency and other relevant agencies in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that are supposed to ensure those stations sell fuel at 165 naira per liter. And if they don't, the necessary measures should be taken to punish them. And I believe now that there is this increase into the freight rate, there should be more enforcement to ensure compliance.
Alaji, you've mentioned maybe just one or two agencies that are concerned with fuel supply, all kinds of fuel supplies to people. do you see any I don't know, for want of a better word, rivalry or friction between any of them or among any of them? The IPMAN, the PPMC, the NNPC, you mentioned the midstream and downstream agency the other time. Do you see any kind of friction or discordance in their conversations that could be responsible for any kind of disruption to the supply system?
Uh, Nigerian midstream and midstream downstream petroleum regulatory agency is supposed to regulate all the activities in the downstream, and NNPC limited now, of course, and the PPMC are the suppliers of petroleum products to the marketers. So I do not see any rivalry or competition because their responsibilities are clearly spelled out. Ipman is a marketing company. Members, there is Association of Petroleum Marketers Association. They are members of owners of private petrol stations, and they are also operate like major marketers association of Nigeria, and they have filling stations across the country. So they only get allocations from the PPMC, or they make purchases where necessary. The only thing is that some of them, just like you earlier mentioned, that they sell fuel above the official pump price. That is where there could be some collusion between them and the midstream and downstream regulatory agency, because they are supposed to comply with the instructions. So this is the only thing I see. Otherwise, the authority usually must come from midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory agency, and everyone is supposed to comply.
But then there is that conversation that came up in the course of the week, as Alera mentioned earlier, when the fuel scarcity in Lagos, in particular, was high. Now they said, look, given all of the things that are happening, costs and everything, and they can't continue to sell fuel at 165 naira. That wasn't realistic. It didn't make business sense. That's why I'm asking that question. If there could be something that needs to be understood, mutually understood, while the midstream and downstream agency is doing its job, the marketers, they are in business to make money.
You are right. The marketers are in business to make money, and they are not finding it easy. It's just like we complained recently about our own, and we are now sorted. I believe the midstream agency will also sort the marketers out. I have told you it is really very, very, very difficult exercise as it is today to sell fuel at 165 naira against all odds because of what's happening internationally. You look at the crude oil, you see the price. You look at the issue of Ukraine, Russia. You see also what our neighbors sell, yet official price is 165. So it's not as easy as imagined. Notwithstanding all this, the regulatory agency haven't also sorted us. They should be able to sort the marketers out.
There's still that conversation, Alaji Osman, around deregulation, full deregulation of the downstream sector. And there are those who wonder maybe that will solve the problem permanently and sustainably. Is this something that what do you think of that?
Well, we are distributors, and in any case, uh, we are on errand. If you send us at a fixed rate, we go. And either regulated or deregulated, still the same thing. However, in view of the issues on ground and the complaints, the strenuous, even the amount that the government usually earmark, in the last count, I had close to about 4 trillion naira. When you look at it, it's really a huge sum, you know. So, but when you look at the deregulated product, AGO, jet oil, they have taken their place in the market because they are forces of demand and supply that fix their price. So the PMS should also be deregulated, full deregulation, so much so that it's available, all these market forces will determine the pricing, and also the fact that all these our neighbors, they are also deregulated. We don't want them to chop into our income. But this is my personal opinion. And from the perspective of the association that I had, we adhere strictly to the government position. And the government position is the fuel is 165, and we respect it and we take it the way it is.
Well, okay, go on.
Yes, I know you have just said that when they say go, you go. But you are also a Nigerian and you also use AGO and you use PMS. So do you think that government insisting on 165 is realistic? And I'm talking from what you are, strictly speaking, compared to us, you are an insider. So based on what you know, do you think it is sustainable?
It might not be sustainable, but it is realistic. Why I say it's realistic? Because the officials of government saw it is realistic. That is why approval is in place. So I cannot come here and say the decision is not realistic. It's realistic, but I know it might not necessarily be sustainable long term.
And isn't that a challenge for you if it's not sustainable long term?
Yeah, I'm sure in the next few months or so, there will have to probably be a review considering the fact that about 4 trillion naira has been earmarked. And for now, we have to solve the immediate problem. The immediate problem is this short queues, which will need to be evacuated. Then maybe after some time, the government officials will review and take necessary action with a view to avoid future occurrence. But notwithstanding all this, we are law abiding as far as NARTO is concerned. We are investors, we are business people, and we do not have any. Prior to this, we were on the board of PPPRA. Today, we are not, so we don't have any input. We just receive instructions. Whichever way it goes, I believe, and the association also believes in the leadership of the sector, and whoever is there, whatever the thing is taken, we abide, we respect.
Perhaps there is a challenge that you can speak to and maybe people might be able to sympathize with. You talked about the fact the other time that your people move resources, petroleum supplies from one part of various parts of the country to various other parts of the country. The costs of that logistics is one way or the other going to impact on prices or not, if you want to speak to that, because the distance between Lagos and Maiduguri is quite significant. The distance between Abuja and Kaduna is quite significant. It comes at a cost. So how do those costs impact on prices in different parts of the country? Because there are those who are saying, wait a minute, you are buying fuel in urban Nigeria for 165 naira. It's not the same in other parts of Nigeria, like maybe Maiduguri or Benue or Plateau and all of that.
Well, as of today, the pricing of petroleum products across the country is equalized. What you sell in Maiduguri, Yola, is the same thing you are supposed to sell in Port Harcourt and Lagos. That is what it is. That is the responsibility of the equalization.
That is what
as far as we're
supposed.
That you said that's what it's supposed to be, but is that what is? From the feelers, the information you are getting.
Officially, that is what it is.
Well, I know that's
Officially,
officially, yes.
Other people,
officially, yes, you are right. But realistically, you talked about being realistic the other time. Realistically, is that what is?
Well, up until now, there are still some stations that sell at 165. But usually, in every activity of life, you have some good eggs, you have some bad eggs. But I am sure with the recent development increase in the freight rate of the petroleum product and so many adjustments, Even the bad eggs, I'm sure they will either fall in or they will be punished.
Alaji, but those who are selling in these far-flung places more than 165, they give the reason for that as freight charges, which is effectively your members, the costs with which they transport the product from the depot to the stations in far-flung places.
Yeah, but what we are saying now, the freight charges, the freight is now sorted. Since it is sorted, it is supposed to, people supposed to respect it. But, I think I will have to clear your mind. Our members are the transporters or distributors of petroleum products. Other members who own the filling stations are not our members. They're either members of Major Marketer Association of Nigeria or major members of IPMAN, Independent Petroleum Marketer Association of Nigeria. So our members will distribute and discharge to the owners of the fuel. So it is the marketers that take decision on their pricing. Ours is just to distribute and discharge. Stops there.
Well, that point is taken. That's why I'm asking whether or not it is realistic. I'm not saying anything about your members influencing the prices or anything, because just as you said, the cost of moving fuel from Lagos to Maiduguri would, for instance, be different from moving fuel from Lagos to Kwara. So the cost differential, for instance, someone has got to have to bear it. That's the question I'm asking.
Yes, that is the usage of that is the responsibility of the trust, the equalization fund. It is the equalization fund that takes care of the difference because we are paid per kilometer and per weight. If you take 30,000 liters from Lagos to Ilorin, it's different from taking 30,000 liters from Lagos to Mina. We are paid per kilometer, but it's the same equalization fund that takes care of this difference.
So it goes back to the question of deregulation that we spoke about the other time. In a deregulated terrain, in a deregulated atmosphere in the sector, who will be bearing that costs that you are paid? Is it still government or the major marketers or who?
The owner of the cargo.
Well, in a deregulated system, naturally the transportation cost will be factored into the home price of the petroleum product. As it is today, like I said, diesel AGO is deregulated. So the transportation cost of diesel AGO is factored into the pump price of AGO. Same thing with kerosene, something with jet oil.
Okay, so are you saying that a deregulated uh, petrol regime would mean that prices of the products will differ in various parts of the country?
Well, absolutely. That is what it seems. But, I am not in a position to speak about this because there is a downstream regulatory agency whose responsibility is this. So I would like to stay on my own area.
All right, well, that's definitely understood. But speaking to your own area, can you tell us some of the challenges your members usually have in doing their jobs and making sure that there is fuel supply to the different parts of the country?
Yes, one of the major challenges the owners of the trucks face, one is the situation of the roads, especially the roads that our drivers regularly follow. That is to say from Lagos or let's say Makwa, Bida, Agai, Lambata. It's terribly bad. Of course, recently there was an approval of 621 billion to ensure those artery roads fixed. Then there is Opela, Auchi. There is another one, Otupani. There is Benin flyover. All those drivers, myself, my own truck had accident about a week ago or so with diesel, around that Mako road. It just on the road, it just fell down. There was no motion because of the situation of the road. So and so many others. I believe if I tell you right now there is an accident there, it's not surprising. However, there is a contractor on the road around Lambata Agaye, but he has not reached the spot, the flash point. So these are some and insecurity. You find a truck loaded with petroleum product, and somehow, somewhere, some people they will just come and climb the vehicle, cut the rope, the connection. The driver will have to stop. If he's lucky. If he's not lucky, the truck will fall down. If he's lucky, he stops. People will enter the vehicle, arrest the driver, tie him down, go and take the truck, discharge the product somewhere, and leave the truck. You know, these are real problems, and they happen daily and regularly. And also the delay in payment of our freight rates. But recently, I understood some amounts were paid by the Midstream Downstream Agency, and they are still paying. So this has reduced some of the sufferings. And also, more importantly, even to purchase a vehicle now, if you want to make a new tank now, fixed with all the fittings and tire, the tank alone is 20 million. If you want to buy truck head, there in Lagos, the whole is about 40 million, so 60 million naira per truck. 60 million naira per truck. So imagine a 60 million naira per truck following this bad road with all the issues, or at the end of the day, after making a trip or two or three in a month, it does not keep 1 million naira. A truck of 60 million naira cannot keep 1 million naira in a month. So imagine how many more years it will keep you return on investment or payback period. So there are really serious problems in the system, and we cannot buy spare parts because of the high cost of dollar. They are very expensive. Battery is expensive. Tire is expensive. Anyway, it's not a forum to say out all our problems here, because in any case, we have to do it, because as of today in the country, there's no pipeline. It is the truck that distributes petroleum product across the country. Because these are real issues, but we'll channel them up to the appropriate forum.
I don't even know where to begin.
No wonder we see that many trucks have very smooth tires. Now we understand when we think about how much one tire costs.
Well, I don't know where to begin, but I guess, we have to just call it a day.
We have to call it a day. So we wish you all the best, Alhaji Yusuf Lawal Uthman. Thank you for joining us this morning and giving us better understanding of what is going on right now. Alhaji is the national president of the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, NARTO. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation in just a moment. Stay with us.